Hey, quick reminder about the big New Year's raffle that we're doing. Get on heronhill.com, use code HS5. For every bottle that you buy, you're going to be entered once into the raffle. We're going to draw 6 winners on January 3rd, and so far, we only have a couple of submissions, so there's $750 worth of prizes, and not a lot of competition right now. Get on there, order your wine, use code HS5 to be entered, and we're looking forward to an awesome raffle on January 3rd. You're listening to the Hunt Suburbia podcast. I'm your host, Pat Guyette. Big bucks I've been dreaming often, every night till I'm in a coffin. Vermont woods to the burbs of Boston, I'm looking for a tree to get lost in. Crisp mornings, little dust in the snow, quality time, just me and my bow. Fall evenings, I know just where to go for some quality times for me and my bow. It's just me and my bow. All right, this episode we are sitting down with our first crossbow only hunter. He started hunting 5 years ago. He hunted the first 2 with a compound bow. Realized that he wasn't able to make ethical shots due to prior injuries, so switched to crossbows. We get into some crossbow strategy, and also he only seriously started hunting about 5 years ago. He shot spike horns and does and young bucks like many of us did as we start, but this year he harvested 2 mature bucks. So we talk about how you can ramp up quickly from being a newbie, getting some nice kills under your belt, learning the ropes, and then being able to learn that much in 5 years where you can harvest 2 nice bucks, mature bucks in the same season. He's a great all-around guy, and we really hope you enjoy this one. So we're back with another episode of Hunt Suburbia, sitting in my makeshift garage studio here. I got Taylor Mitton with me. Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
No, it's great. Taylor had a great year this year and harvested 2 mature bucks. They're really nice looking deer. We'll have them up on the Instagram, and he'll share the stories of those 2 deer. And Taylor is a crossbow hunter, so he's the first crossbow only hunter that we've had on the podcast. I've shot my crossbow up in Vermont. There's a new law up there, and anybody can use a crossbow. So I took it out this year and didn't get any shots. I only hunted with it one day, but so we can talk a little bit about crossbow hunting. It looks like you have one of those new ones that are really narrow.
Yeah, so I only crossbow hunt. I don't gun hunt in any way. I use my crossbow throughout the year.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, when I first got my doctor's note after a couple surgeries and problems with my labrum, I went to Dick's and got a crossbow. That was okay, but I wanted to save up and spend some money, so I got a 10-point stealth, and thing's been really good to me.
That thing, what was that thing, like $1,800?
A little bit less than that. I got it on eBay, so
there you go.
I got it used, but it's a good bow, man. I really enjoy it.
And how many years have you been crossbow hunting?
This will be my 3rd year.
And before that, were you using your compound bow?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I probably hunted 2 years with a compound before I made the switch, and the switch came to, I just want to be as ethical as possible.
Yeah.
I shoot left-handed, and so it wasn't drawing the bow. It was keeping my right arm steady while aiming. And
what was the injury again? Because so in high school, I tore my rotator cuff, and then I dislocated my shoulder and pinched a nerve in my left shoulder.
Yep.
Spring break, senior year in college, playing volleyball drunk, and trying to be a hero and dove and tried to save the ball, whatever. I landed on it, full weight of it, and popped my shoulder out. I ended up doing some nerve damage, but it came back. But for a few years, I couldn't. Did these lateral raises and stuff that you do when you're working out.
Yep, for sure.
I couldn't do anything more than 5 pounds, and I couldn't hold because it was shaky. So if that something like that.
Yeah, that's like I said, that's my biggest problem. It was just maintaining my point, so I could place ethical shots on deer, and that just wasn't happening. And like I said, that's why I decided to make the change. And
Yeah.
I do wish that I could, once you make the change, you can't go back.
Right, and that kind of sucks.
That does suck because.
But it's supposed to be a permanent injury in Massachusetts, so I can see why they made the law. They don't want. Yeah.
No, yeah. So it's good and bad. But overall, I enjoy.
You know what they should do is they should let you if you can train your other shoulder.
Yeah.
And if somebody wanted to ever do that, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they're just
that'd be
getting
cool.
the itch to go back to compound, and
I know.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
No, I mean, some rules I think should have a little play to them.
Yeah.
Especially in certain situations.
Yeah. So what zone do you hunt in Mass?
Zone 11.
Okay.
I live in Berkeley, and I hunt.
You don't have to give up your spots.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to.
Yeah.
But I live in Berkeley, Mass, and I hunt the surrounding areas. And then every year, the last 3 years, I go to Pennsylvania. One of my buddies is an outfitter out there.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you hunt anywhere else.
Yeah, so this is the first year I've gotten a Rhode Island license as well. Just with it being close to where I live and Sunday hunting, and the extended season goes, I think, to end of January.
Yeah. So did you hunt down there at all yet?
I've been a couple of times, but I haven't really dug into an area or anything yet. I'm kind of waiting for the Mass season to end, and then January kind of dig in.
Yeah,
over
cool.
there.
There's some good bucks down there.
Yeah, for sure.
Buddy of mine, Chris, he's the CEO of Big Woods Bucks. He lives in Rhode Island, and he, for a while he wanted to get up to Maine and Maine only, and Maine captures your heart once you go up there, right? And you want to get into the big woods.
Yeah, for sure.
But there actually are some pretty good sized patches of woods in Rhode Island if you can look carefully enough. And he started scouting it, and he's getting some good bucks down there. And he's looking into doing it more, and I may go down there too.
Yeah, for sure, man.
The season extends through January 31st.
Yeah, you can't beat it.
Why not?
Exactly. Yeah, everyone, suburban hunting, I guess. Mm-hmm. If you don't kind of do that in Massachusetts, you really limit yourself to
where you can
hunt.
Yeah, right.
So, I say this to people all the time. Massachusetts hunting is so different compared to Midwest, and it
really is.
It is.
And compared to anywhere, compared to Vermont. It's but Massachusetts, you got the big woods out west, which is cool, and the Berkshires are kind of an extension of Vermont. That's how I see it, and it's some Vermont style hunting out there, and you can get big woods.
Yep.
Then you got the center of the state, and you got a mixture of suburbs and some bigger patches. And then you get over your way, and it's like really suburban.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and then you got Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard that are just like crazy experience. I haven't been there, but 100 deer per square mile.
Yeah, I see people posting, hammer bucks getting taken on these islands all the time.
Yeah.
I never...
You got all those rich people that moved in from, they're living there from, who knows where, and they're not hunting. And
and they probably have great gardens.
That's right. Oh, my God, tasty gardens.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I think this time of year, I always hear that deer are getting closer to, in the suburbs, they're getting closer to houses, and because that's where some of the remaining greenery is, and old gardens and stuff like that.
No,
so
for sure.
They're moving in a little bit closer.
Yep.
So,
yeah. No, it's a good point, man.
So if you guys want to strategize and get 500 feet away from a house, or if you got permission, find who's got the best garden, find a spot that's legal, and catch them going up to the backyard.
Yeah.
But
Hunting in Massachusetts.
Yeah, dude. So tell me about your bucks. Let's start with the first buck this year.
So the first buck that I got, it was like I stated before, I go to Pennsylvania for opening day the last 3 years. This year, I was really excited. My buddy, Oak Ridge, my buddy Craig down at Oak Ridge Outfitters in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
This was the first year he was on his own, and we had high expectations going into the year. We had a lot of big bucks on camera. He put in a lot of work, and there was this one buck we named Johnny because he lives on an old apple orchard.
Uh-huh.
And he was the king of the apple trees. Mm-hmm. We would have cameras set up. Any other buck, any other deer came to some of his apple trees, he was there 5 minutes later kicking them out of there. So that's how he got his name, Johnny.
Protective of his...
Johnny Appleseed. So, So yeah, expectations were really high. I go down there.
So did he have clients? You said he was on his own. Was he guiding?
Yeah, so he worked for a different outfitter, and then this year he
branched
out, and started his own outfitter.
So did he have some clients there, and you were down helping him, or you were just hunting?
So he's a good friend of mine, so I go down there once or twice in the summertime, but, he's doing the majority of the work.
Yeah, cool.
But I received several DVDs of Johnny eating apples and all these other bucks in velvet and stuff, so he really kept me in the loop with this buck, and
that's cool.
That was my target buck going down there. That's what I was going after. So opening day was Saturday. Got the date. First Saturday in October. Go down Friday, Saturday, do an all-day sit, see a bunch of deer, have a good sit, but don't see Johnny, don't see other mature bucks. So Sunday, we just go over thousands of trail cam pictures, all the info that we had, trying to pin this deer down for the rest of the week. And so that was Sunday. Then Monday morning, go to a stand across the street from this guy's house on the property, and probably about 80 yards away from one of the apple trees on one of the runs that he was coming out in. And first light, see a couple deer, one shooter, but wasn't him. Around 8 o'clock, he shows up to the apple tree, eating apples, 80 yards, wasn't, not in my range.
Looking over his back on.
Waiting for another deer to come to run him out of there.
Omar coming, yo.
So he's probably in and around that apple tree for 20 minutes. Then he gets back on the run, and I stop him at 60 yards. It was the only shot I had, and I let an arrow go. And I think he was 58 yards away.
Yep.
I hit him. The shot was a little bit back. So, you know how that goes. You have the up and down roller coaster of emotions.
And so that's another thing we can talk about with, you were using your crossbow, right?
Yes. Yep.
So crossbow, it can expand your range a little bit.
Yes.
But you still need to make sure that you're confident out to 60 yards, right?
For sure.
Yep.
So I shot a lot over the summer at 60. I would not shoot over 60. Yep. I would not shoot if I didn't have a perfect, broadside shot. Right. But in this situation, I felt comfortable with the shot.
Yep.
It wasn't quick. It didn't happen quick. I stopped him. He stood there, gave me plenty of time. I didn't have to rush the shot.
Hey, if you're comfortable out to it, only you know what your effective range is.
Yes, for sure. But, the shot was a little far back. It was a fatal shot, but it was a little back. So I went back, all excited, went back to camp, got with my buddy. We gave him 3 hours. Mm-hmm. So we go back at the site of the shot. Not much blood initially. We start walking, find my arrow. Good blood on the arrow, but not a ton of blood at the site of the shot.
Yep.
So we start tracking. Now, we're not making any noise. We're being completely quiet. My buddy Craig is in front of me. I'm behind him. We're just on blood. Blood gets better and better. We find one bed. Then we make the decision, if we find one more bed, we're going to go back and give it more time.
Yeah.
So we keep going, following blood. Blood's getting better. And all of a sudden, my buddy steps, and the deer that I hit jumps up. We almost stepped on him. He jumped up, went about 20 yards. I had my crossbow loaded.
Yep.
I shot him. He stopped. I shot him. Perfect shot. And he went maybe 30 more yards. And
so you jumped him up out of his bed.
Yes, we jumped him up out of his bed, which,
And was it Johnny Appleseed?
It was Johnny Apple. It was my buck, man. It was the buck that I hit, and he was bedded down, and we jumped him up, and I was able to get a second shot on him, which sealed the deal. Yep. I think the first shot would have been a fatal shot, but with him presenting me with another shot, I took advantage of it, and
why not? So. And do you weigh your bucks down in Pennsylvania? Is that like a thing?
Yeah. I mean, I've never weighed a deer, to be honest with you. Myself, no, I haven't weighed a deer.
That's a Massachusetts thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't weigh their deer.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I brought it down to, I enjoy cutting up my own deer if I have the time.
Right, yeah.
Out there, I wanted to have it caped out. I'm
Yep.
going to have it mounted. So we brought it to a butcher, for packaging reasons. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm not at my house.
He looked big. I was wondering if he was 200 pounds.
I'm not sure. He was a big deer. He was a good, nice, mature 8-point buck.
And early in the season, hadn't run off any of his weight.
No, for sure. Yeah, he was definitely well fed on those apples.
That's the thing. The deer I got yesterday, he looked big all year on cameras. I just brought him to the butcher, and he was 140 pounds. He ran off every.
I could imagine.
He looked so skinny hanging there. But
Wow.
earlier in the year, I think he was 175. But
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You gonna talk a little bit about your deer?
Well, I'm gonna do a whole podcast on it at some
good.
point, so we don't have to get too far into it.
Cool.
So you know what? Tell me about your arrow setup too, because one interesting thing, like this year when I changed my arrow setup. I got 400 spine. I use XS Envies, and I've always used Grim Reaper expandable broadheads, and I bought them again this year. And I didn't realize till I got home that I actually bought Crossbow.
Oh wow.
Broadheads.
Yep.
But I don't really, as far as I can tell, I don't know what the difference is, other than it looks like maybe the tip is a little bit heavier than what a regular compound
for sure.
broadhead would be. But I used them. I practiced with them. I practiced with the practice broadhead all summer. I dialed in and I killed 2 bucks with them. So I think I'm going to keep using the Crossbow.
For sure, man.
Broadhead
Whatever
on my regular arrows.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So what do you use?
So I use the arrow I use is so I did a lot of research because in the beginning when I was learning, what went well with my crossbow, I did a lot of research and I come to find out that the suggested arrow and broadhead, that 10-point, suggests to be used for my crossbow, works better than any other combination that I've used.
Yeah, and they're suggesting their own brand, right?
Yes, of course they're suggesting their own brand.
But also they're making it so.
I've used it and I've had great luck and they fly great.
Yeah.
So I use it's a Evo X center punch bolt with Alpha Nox. Alpha Nox are like the newer Nox that all the 10 points are putting on their bolts.
Yeah, I think I got a 10-point. That's my crossbow over there.
Oh, yeah.
It's
that's
Wicked Ridge or
Wicked
something like
Ridge,
that.
yeah. That's sweet.
Just an entry level. Yep.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So, and then I use the Evo X broadhead, just an expandable broadhead. I think it's...
So you prefer expandable over fixed?
Yes.
Have you tried both?
So when I used to shoot a compound, yes. I haven't tried a fixed blade on a crossbow for the reason that I did that research. I started using this combination, and it's just been killer for me.
Yeah, don't change it if it's not broken.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
For sure.
That's how I.
That's why I'll probably be behind Grim Reaper crossbow heads, until,
yeah, for sure.
until something happens.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I have a couple of packs of those. That's what I used on my first crossbow. But then once I went to 10-point, I just started using the suggested stuff.
Hey, you want to make a trade? Bring them up, and we'll trade you something in the old garage.
Yeah, I'll toss them your way, man, for sure.
All right, so let's talk about number 2. Buck number 2. Was it a Massachusetts buck?
Yeah, so this buck was a local buck, local property that I hunt. I got it's private property, really nice piece. I got permission on the tail end of last year. Hunted it a couple times, but didn't figure it out. Didn't have.
How big's the piece?
It's a little under 400 acres.
Oh wow, that's a good piece.
It's a great piece, man. I still haven't. I'll walk the property. I'm still learning, but I ran a lot of cameras over the summer. I was able to pin down some good movement. See how these bucks are moving. It's a big swamp. It holds a lot of deer, and so I had really good expectations on this property going into the season. Had a couple shooter bucks that I've been following all year. So it was Friday, October 30th. We actually down my way got snow.
Oh, we got snow up here too.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah, that was great. That really. So on the forecast, I banged out of work that Friday because it was just too good not to. So I was going to hunt Friday, Saturday.
I saw so many bucks on cameras that came through in the snow, dude. When that snow came, I'll show
man.
you after. Like all my cameras lit up. It really triggered the movement.
It was that was so in like me maturing as a hunter, I'm trying to really capitalize on cold fronts and days like that I can don't get me wrong, I want to be in the woods as much as I can.
Yep.
But just maturing as a hunter, I'm really trying to focus on the little things that can put me to the next level and try to chase mature
trying to hunt
animals.
smarter rather than hunting harder.
Yeah, for
and,
sure.
I got a newborn kid, and I don't know, are you married? You got kids or anything?
Yep.
Yeah, like, so I learned this year, newborn, but it was also the year that I wanted to make a leap in hunting.
Yeah.
And trying to balance that. But I was out there a lot, and next year I'm going to definitely pinpoint, cold fronts, the colder weather days. I'm not going to hunt as much in early October.
Yep.
For sure. They expanded the season here, and you get the itch to want to get out there as early as you can.
Yep.
I might do opening day or something, but I'm going to really wait and pick my time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, working, family, hunting. So, just trying to really capitalize on those days.
Yeah. So that day you were hunting while it was snowing that day?
So yeah, I hunted that Friday. I did it like a afternoon, evening hunt.
Mm-hmm.
It was coming down pretty good. I didn't see anything till probably 30 minutes left of shooting light. I see a doe coming.
And before, explain your setup. So you're hunting it's without giving away your spot, but you're hunting a swamp.
Yep.
And are you on the edge of a swamp? Are you what's your setup there?
So this spot is just, at least this part where I'm hunting is just, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's swamp on each side, and then there's a trail that, probably a 10-foot wide trail, man-made trail, and it tabletops, so it goes up on like a hill, and it flattens out on top, and on each side is the swamp. So when you're on this tabletop, you look to your right, and it's all swamp. You look to your left, and it's all swamp.
Beautiful.
So in this location, I have 2 stands hung there, but the sign that I was seeing, I take a little chair with me in my backpack, and that's how I've killed most of my
You won't even get in your stand sometimes.
I won't even get.
And that's also nice. With the crossbow, you can hunt more ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do majority of ground hunting in Massachusetts. I have stands set that I hunt, but especially during the rut, I try to be 100% mobile. That chair's with me everywhere I go. So Friday, I set up on that tabletop. I got the swamp, like I said, to the right and to the left of me. I see a doe coming to the right.
So where do they normally, do they cross that tabletop? Do they walk along the edges down near the swamp, or how do they normally travel there?
So they'll cross the tabletop because it tabletops and it'll come down.
Yeah, and then there's a little.
They'll cross there and then it comes back. But for the
there's a little pinch point there where it goes down, a little valley.
Yep. But a lot of times they're running along like the bottom of that tabletop on each side of the swamp.
Yep, got it.
So
along the edge of the swamp there.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
So I see the doe coming. I'm like, oh yeah, it's cold, pre-rut, let's go. And so right behind the doe is the buck that I end up shooting. Now I've never seen this buck on camera. I can't even verify. It happened so quick that I couldn't even tell how many points the buck had.
Yep.
I just saw that it was a monster buck. So the doe keeps going. The 11-pointer that I end up getting, he's in a bush ripping it up. Now behind him are the 2 shooters that I've had on camera.
Oh, wow.
And they so while that buck is in the bush, they just keep on that doe. And I passed them up like they were nothing because I was just so fixated on this bigger
so
buck.
Funny how that happens,
ripping up the bush.
If that
crazy.
one wasn't in there, you would have been like, oh, I'm picking one of you guys.
Yeah, so 100%.
Yeah.
So the buck gets out the bush. He's heading away from me. Now, the does already came and went. The buck just got done ripping up the bush. Now I have a 5-pointer that's between. I'm up on the tabletop. That 5-pointer's at the bottom of the tabletop.
The 4th buck, or that was one?
That was the 4th buck.
Oh man.
And then the 11-pointer's up in that bush, probably 50 yards away. Once the big one starts walking away, I hit the grunt tube. He whips right around but he sees the little buck at the bottom of the tabletop.
Yeah.
So I think that if that buck wasn't there, he would have came looking for whatever buck grunted at him. But once he saw that other buck,
he was like, psh.
He wanted nothing to do with it, so he kept going. So the night ended, and I couldn't wait for the next day.
Damn.
So,
4 bucks.
Yeah, 4 bucks.
And that must have been an early heat, though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
exactly.
the bucks are still kind of bounced up, and they're at that point, usually if they're fighting, they're just sparring and tickling their tines and not really getting into the full fight. And so they're traveling together.
Yep.
And, man, that's cool.
Yeah, it was that was.
And while it's snowing, I love that.
Oh yeah, in the snow just made it that much better.
Yeah. All right. So next day.
So now I'm all fired up. I pull one of my chips out on the walk out, and I get my first picture of that 11-pointer. Mm-hmm. So that was cool to finally have, to get him on camera and stuff. So then the next day I come in, and I set up in the same spot originally where I was the day before. Now it's a little bit warmer. Snow's on the ground, but it's definitely warmer. Sun's out. And I'm just getting drenched from all the snow melting above me. I'm getting hammered. I'm more wet than I am.
This is Saturday?
This is Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm more wet Saturday than I was Friday when it was snowing.
So where you were, it was warmer. Because I remember hunting Saturday, and it was freezing. It was 19 degrees.
Oh, shoot, no.
Yeah, dude.
So it was, don't get me wrong, it was cool
Yep.
on my walk in. But once 8, 9 o'clock, once the sun was out, it was just melting all the snow. So I'm getting drenched.
Actually, you're right. At midday, it warmed right up.
Yeah, it warmed right up.
It was quiet.
It was melting everything. I didn't see one deer.
Yeah.
So I'm getting all fed up with myself, and so finally, I think it was 10:30. I told myself I'm gonna get up and move, see if I at least gotta get from under this tree. I'm getting soaked.
Yeah.
So I get up and I do a little scout, and I see on one of the paths that I come in before I reach this tabletop that I was set up on, it makes an L shape, to the tabletop and then to the right away from where I was.
Yep.
And after I left my spot, I saw that there were 3 huge scrapes that buck must have made. Not, under a tree, just him ripping up the ground.
That wasn't there the day before.
That wasn't there the day before.
Yeah.
So I saw those 3 scrapes in an L.
Yep.
So I was like, nah, I'm setting up right here. So I took out my seat. I set up in a new spot at the beginning of the tabletop. I'm not at the top anymore. I'm kind of where it starts.
Yeah.
And in an L, I have these 3 scrapes. So I'm sitting there, still haven't seen a deer. Now it's 12:30, and I see my first doe that's behind me. 30 yards behind me, there's 3 does working. And I'm just paying attention to them, no bucks. And I was surprised that I didn't see any bucks with them. Mm-hmm. So for whatever reason, I turned back around, and that 11-pointer's crossing that L shape past one of his scrapes, and he's coming right at me. So I'm on the ground in my chair.
Yeah.
And he's coming at me. He gets to the right of me. I have no shot. And then he comes down and is now at the bottom of the tabletop.
Yeah.
Where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
So I have to turn around, and I have probably a 5-foot opening 12 yards away where he's going to be coming through.
12 yards.
12 yards. So it was a close shot. And
Yeah.
so he finally makes it to that opening.
I'd say that's within your effective range.
Yeah,
huh?
I'd say so. I tried stopping him in the opening.
Yeah.
He didn't stop, so I shot him when he was moving. And I put a good shot on him. He went maybe 40 yards and piled up.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
And was that bigger than your Pennsylvania buck?
Yeah, that was the biggest buck I've killed. He was
in your life, right?
Yeah, for
Sick,
sure.
Dude.
Yeah,
so you're getting 2 mounted this year.
Yeah, two mounted.
Man.
But yeah, that was a great deal, man. It was one of the best, couple days I've had in the woods.
That's great. Yeah. So how long after the Pennsylvania buck was that one?
So the Pennsylvania buck I killed on, I believe it was October the 5th.
Ah, so that was early. Yeah.
And then I killed him on Halloween, October 31st.
So you still have a buck tag in Mass, right?
Yes, I still have a buck tag.
Are you still going out?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been going out. I mean, I'm trying. I've always killed, a lot of deer, but they were, smaller bucks
Yeah.
and does.
Yep.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
For sure.
And I'll still
Yeah.
kill a small deer
Yeah.
any day if that's what I feel like doing. But I'm trying to hold.
But while the iron's hot, man,
Yeah,
you might
yeah.
as well,
I'm, just trying to, top myself as,
Yeah.
And,
Before this year, I'd never killed anything bigger than a 6, and the
Yep.
6 was like a year and a half. And most, if not all, of my deer before this year were a year and a half.
yeah, same with me.
And so this year I was like, I want to kill something a little older, and I killed 2 3.5-year-olds. They weren't monsters, but for me, it's a nice stepping stone, and
Dude,
it's like
that's awesome.
being able to pass on a lot of deer.
Yeah.
I saw 24 bucks this year.
That's
I saw
awesome.
a lot of bucks.
Yeah.
And I passed the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's just growing as a hunter, man. Everyone's different, and everyone started, at different points of their life, and that.
And not everybody wants to do that. Not
Exactly.
everybody wants to. People just want to get meat. That's amazing. That's
Yes,
fine. That's the
and
way
there's
I was for
nothing wrong
years.
with that. Of course, yep.
Yeah, I want to change the experience a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's cool. And likewise as well. My biggest buck was a 1.5-year-old 7-pointer.
Yeah.
I got last year in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
and it was the first buck I saw in the first.
Yeah.
My first evening down there.
Right.
If I waited an hour later,
the deer before this year, man.
yeah,
That's
if
the
I
first
waited
buck, yeah.
an hour later, I would have had a nice mature buck. But that's just growing as a hunter, and
Yeah.
it's cool to see the progression.
So when did you start hunting? How old were you?
So I started hunting as a kid. I mean, small game and stuff like that. And then my father was a pheasant hunter, so I went bird hunting with him and stuff. But I really didn't truly dive into deer hunting till about 5 years ago.
So was your dad not a deer hunter?
No, my
just
dad.
pheasant?
No,
Yeah.
my dad wasn't a deer hunter. So one of my good friends growing up, him and his father were deer hunters, and I always envied them. But
Yeah.
when you're a kid, and if your parents aren't big into that stuff,
Right.
it's not easy to
No.
start hunting and to
It
get all
seems
the
like
stuff
a very
you need.
daunting task, and
It
there's
does.
so much to learn. And
Yeah,
you
for
know
sure.
what it is? I learn every day. You're learning every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Every time you go out in the woods, you're learning something else. So
Yep,
yeah,
for
it is.
sure.
There is a lot to learn,
Yep.
but it's still accessible.
Oh yeah.
Get out there and practice with a bow, and you can
100%.
kill a deer your first year.
You made a good point. It does seem so, before you get into it, seems so far away. So
Yeah.
so hard to, how can I do that?
Yeah.
But I mean, once you get into it, man, there's
It's
nothing
not.
better.
And if you live in a state where rifle hunting is big or something, it's
Yep.
even easier to get into rifle hunting.
Oh, yeah,
get
for
yourself
sure.
a gun, practice
Yep.
with that thing. And like my buddy Scotland got his first deer this year.
Yep.
He was like you. He never grew up with someone teaching him to deer hunt.
Yep.
Always thought he wanted to do it. Finally got his license this year in COVID times. Got himself a gun, practiced like crazy with that thing.
Yeah.
And we went up there and he was successful.
Awesome.
It doesn't. You can be successful right away.
Yeah,
and
no,
now
for
he's
sure.
right into it. And
Yeah.
he's learning everything he can.
Yep. No, for sure. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, here's a little tip that kind of flies under the radar, but it's super important to pay attention to. You have to keep your wives and your girlfriends happy during hunting season. I mean, you have to keep them happy all year long, but you might as well do something a little bit extra during hunting season to butter them up and maybe buy yourself some extra time in the woods. And what I've always found that works well is buying wine. My wife loves wine. I love wine. So it's one of those gifts that I get her some wine and I also partake in it and enjoy it. And we always buy Heron Hill wine since my buddy is the vineyard manager over there and does a great job. And the owner of that winery, they're out of the Finger Lakes. He's a big hunter, and his wines specifically pair well with game meat. So my favorite is the Eclipse Red. That pairs really great with venison. They have a game bird red that pairs well with your favorite game bird. But what I do is I buy my wife a case at the beginning of the season, and if we go through it, which we usually do, I'll buy her another case in the middle of the season, and it really goes a long way. They ship to most states in the Northeast. There's a couple they don't, so just check the website. Vermont's one of them, unfortunately, but Massachusetts, New York, New Hampshire, Maine, all those are good states. Get on there, check out their wines. It's heronhill.com, and they have a special code for Hunt Suburbia listeners. So if you want to support us, please support our sponsors. And I mean, this is a great partner that is just going to make your wives and girlfriends happy. You're going to love the wine. So please get on there and support them. Use code HS5 for an additional 5% off at checkout. Now, if you buy 6+ bottles of wine, they already have a volume discount on there of 10%. And you put in HS5 at checkout, you'll get an additional 5%. So that's 15% off. Plus, you get free shipping for anything over 6 bottles. If you buy a case, that's 12 bottles for you mathematicians out there. They have a volume discount of 15%, and you'll get an extra 5%, so 20% off total if you use code HS5 at checkout. So please get on there, support them, get some wine for yourself and your wife, buy some extra time in the woods, and enjoy it. So since then, have you introduced anybody else to hunting? Because usually it's like one person gets introduced, and then there's a branch that goes, there's a tree that goes
no,
out.
that's for
Your
sure.
coaching tree.
Yeah, no, for sure. So like at work, everyone knows me as the deer hunter and stuff, and I haven't taken somebody out myself. I would love to, but there are other guys at work that I've helped get camo or pass them down some stuff that I'm not using anymore, and taught them scent control and what I do and what works for me. And the biggest thing is for these guys is you listen to podcasts or you read stuff online, and not everything's going to apply to you, but you take bits and pieces of what does apply to you,
right?
And you put that into play, and you can become a successful hunter from learning and listening to podcasts and reading up and applying what works for you.
Yeah. I used a lot of what I've learned from my guests this year.
Yeah, for sure.
And from all the podcasts I listened to before I even started this one. Yeah. Yeah, that all went into helping me kill those bucks.
It really does, man. I mean, I've learned so much about hunting from listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
It's
one of the main things, dude, I found out is like that was holding me back was overthinking though. Like you get all this information. Yeah. You're consuming so much content these days, and then you get out into the woods and your brain's just working overload. Yep. And you're like, even to the point where it's like just trying to figure out what's the best tree to put a camera on where I'm not going to miss bucks that are sneaking behind the tree and all that. And like, I'm overthinking that.
Yeah,
like, if
you're
overthinking that, then it's like, so this year I didn't really overthink it. I mean, I took some of the best tips from the podcast, and most recent intel is huge.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Everybody's saying like, dude, hunt scrapes. If there's a fresh scrape, hunt the fresh scrapes.
Yep. Yeah.
Deer that's their pub. It's their bar. It's where they communicate with each other, and they leave their scent, and they know where everybody in the herd is.
Yep.
And they're going to be frequenting that. In the evenings.
Yeah.
And so hunt it. If you see a fresh scrape, just hunt it.
Yeah.
My guy last week, the one that just came out today, Chad.
Yeah.
Chad Whitcomb from Backyard Sense, he said rubs are also, and I've seen this too, but rubs are almost as good as scrapes.
Wow,
it's another place where they leave their scents.
Yeah.
And I saw it last year. I had a camera in my deer camp in Vermont, and I got a 10-pointer went by and made a rub right on camera. The tree wasn't rubbed, but he walked. And I do all my cameras with video. I love video.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Picture. And I see him making the rub, and then he's gone. And then later that day, spike horn's going by, and you see him like passing it and going up a hill, but then he stops and like looks back at the rub and goes nose in the air. The wind must have been going right there, and he smelled it, walked right down to the rub, and he started rubbing it and leaving his scent there.
See?
And then every doe that walked by, same thing. They go up and smell it. And even 2 weeks later, I would get pictures of deer checking that rub that he made. So they do. Cool. It's just another place to leave scent. Man.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So how did you tell me about? I'm curious about your setup. Oh, so that's what I was gonna say, bro. I don't want to talk too much about my deer from yesterday, but I took a couple of things. I took most recent intel. I got texted a picture of some does. Wasn't a buck, but I was like, hey, if there's some does going through, I should try to sneak out there.
Yeah.
Got out there. Then from John Coffey, one of my earlier podcasts, he hunts pretty much exclusively from the ground with a recurve bow, and he got that beautiful 160-inch, buck in mass with wearing a ghillie suit.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he said, make sure you hunt behind. If you're going to be on the ground, hunt behind a root ball of a tree that's down or something that's got a lot of cover. And I always just sat against a tree with my gun in Vermont. How I grew up hunting.
Yeah,
and you can do that too. And I'm sure I want to get into your setup in a second. But then also Chad in this last week's podcast, he said same thing. He was like, when I'm on the ground, I always make sure when I'm stopping next to a big tree, somewhere I got a little bit of cover.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, yesterday I bounced out there and I just found a big tree to be able to, hide me.
Yeah.
Now, sure enough, the buck came in from the backside and I had no cover. There was nothing in between us, but just all that stuff and putting it together on the fly.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a fun way to hunt too.
Do you sit in front of the tree? Do you sit behind the tree with your stool? Like how do you do? What's your setup normally?
I mean, yeah, if I can, if I find a perfect spot like that I feel is perfect, and I have shooting lanes and I have more than one lane.
Yeah.
Yes, I do want cover, of course, but I prioritize like the perfect spot over, making sure I'm next to a tree or a blowdown or something to where I have added cover.
Yep.
But, that, of course, anything that can... now, if I can be next to a tree or something to cover me, and it also gives me the best, shooting lanes and my best opportunity, of course. But I've been right out in the open with these deer and with my scent control process, ozonics.
I was gonna say, what do you do with your scent control and like wind, and how do you take all that stuff into play?
So I play the.
You have to play the wind.
Play the
wind. You can't beat a
wind.
deer's nose.
No.
And I was just texting with one of our listeners last night. He was like, "Hey, I noticed that your harvest pictures, you're wearing green plaid flannels.
Yeah.
And what's your take on camo versus flannel, and does it really make a big difference?" And I honestly don't. I don't think it really does. I think a lot of it is the marketing of the industry.
Oh, for sure.
With camo.
Yeah.
Because I have killed a lot of my deer without. Actually, every single buck now that I've killed with a bow was not with camo.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
The first year it was, but it was with a blue like digital camo that I got in Kyrgyzstan when I was over there seeing where my wife grew up. It's this like blue digital camo thing that sticks out like crazy.
Shoot.
I was wearing that. And then the last two this year, both wearing checkered flannel, and one of them was on the ground.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the most important thing is staying completely still.
Completely still is everything.
If you have to move like a sloth.
Yeah.
And the wind has to be in your face. This buck I killed yesterday, the wind was right in my face.
Yep.
But I'm on the ground, nothing in between us. There was not. I'm not in camo. Granted, it's green. It kind of blends in with the tree, but I don't know. I just don't think it plays that much of a difference. But I think camo is a industry thing.
Yep.
Ozonics, maybe not. You can tell me about what your experience is there, but the wind is free, man.
Yeah, no.
The wind, you play the wind, and that's free.
100%. I mean, playing the wind, you'll never go wrong playing the wind. Mm-hmm. When I first started hunting, I was like, trying to learn the wind and, okay, I should hunt here based on the wind or hunt there based on the wind.
Yep.
Almost intimidated me. It was keeping me out of the wood. Oh, the wind, what should I do? So when I was first learning to hunt, I went overboard on my scent control because I didn't know how to play the wind. So I told myself, if I can be as scent free as possible and take every step, at least it'll give me time to learn the wind and, keep me in the woods, but learn the wind and get to that, mature to that point.
Yeah.
So that's, I've learned enough to where I still practice, scent control, to the extreme amount. But now that I know the wind as well, it's just, it's come together pretty well.
And you're on the ground too, which I think scent control is a little bit more important.
Oh, for sure.
You're not up 25 feet in a tree, and does not have the potential to carry over the deer.
Yeah.
So
from my best, just if I'm looking for a spot to hunt from the ground, I like being on a little bit of a hill. Not only because then I can see. Yeah. I have more than one shooting
nature's
lane.
Tree stand almost.
It is, and the 3 spots in Mass that I majority hunt from the ground from, they're all on a little bit of a elevated surface, where I killed that the 11-pointer that was on the tabletop. Hunt another spot, same type thing. It's a little hill, and it just gets me a little bit above these deer, and I can see more, and so.
But so tell me about ozonics, because I don't know too much about it. And is it this little machine that you bring into the woods and you turn it on? Does it make any noise? Tell me all about it.
So it does make noise. It was my first year using it. I I bought it from a member.
This year?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is my first year using it. I bought it used off a guy from Boston Bowhunter or something like that.
Yeah.
And
that guy was like, "This shit doesn't work. Let me sell it to
yeah,
somebody
probably.
else."
I mean,
but hey, you killed $2 this year with it.
yeah. So I can't tell if it works.
It's one of those things.
It's
yeah.
one of those things where I'm just trying to stack as many odds in my favor as I can.
Yep.
So with hunting on the ground, sometimes, I think it's helped, but I can't definitely confirm that or not.
Now, was the wind in your face for both of these deer?
So,
or at least not blowing at them?
Yeah, so in Pennsylvania, the wind was in my face.
Mm-hmm.
In Mass, it was in my face from where he came out, but then he got behind me, so he had my wind.
Yeah.
But his head was to the ground, and he was moving. Like I said, when I bleated at him, he didn't even stop. So, it happened so quick that, he didn't indicate or he didn't blow, and I had does behind me.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the does were working. So they were downwind.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things
It is.
that a lot of you don't think about, especially if you're new to hunting, is like if the does are coming in and there's a buck following, you have to multitask and keep track of those does and where they're at too. Even if you have to draw, if you're using a compound bow, you have to draw. You got to make sure those does aren't like right looking at you, because
they're tough,
if they
man.
take off, the buck can take off too and ruin your whole shot.
Yeah, for sure. They're tough. Dude,
they're tough to fool.
Yeah,
especially during the rut. They're much smarter than a buck.
Oh my god, it's wild, man. Killing a doe during the rut could be, it probably is harder than killing a buck.
Yeah, man. And so I was hunting 100, and everyone that I've showed it to said this is probably 150, mid 150s 9-pointer that is
nice.
just a beast.
Awesome.
And the biggest buck I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I have him on a couple of cameras.
Cool.
And after I shot my 9-pointer this year, there was a smaller 9-pointer, but I shot him. I went back 2 days later to the same stand. I had my tree stand was still in there. It's a climber, but I left it so I could drag the buck out. No problem. So I went in there 2 days later, and it was a fucking cold day, and it was really cold, and I love those days.
Yeah.
And I'm up in my stand half hour before shooting light, freezing my ass off, and I get texted the picture. This is another time when a cell cam could have worked to my advantage, but didn't. My cell cam in this particular piece was about 200 yards away from my camera. I had just moved it the week before, so more further into the swamp. I wanted to see if if they're moving in and out of this spot or not. So I moved it away. It used to be 30 yards away from this stand. I moved it into the swamp, and so I'm sitting there 10 minutes before shooting light, and I get texted a picture, and it's this big 9, and I hadn't seen him on camera in weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And I was like, holy shit. He's behind me. I'm facing the other way. The swamp's in my back. He's behind me. And 10 minutes to shoot light. I'm like, So I stand up and sit on the back of my climber facing that way, knowing that he's there, not out the way my stand was facing.
Yeah, for sure,
And man, I'm just an idiot. I did it for maybe 45 minutes sitting on there, and it was so cold, and I was like, you know what? It's so crunchy and everything. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna turn around and get into my nice little comfy Summit climber seat, and if that buck, he's huge. If he's coming in, I'll be able to hear him, and I'll be able to get up and turn around. But it didn't happen, man. So one of these smart ass does. I hear some crunching behind me, and I was like, that sounds like it's probably a squirrel, because she was another tiny doe. And she just, it sounded like a squirrel. I didn't even hear the buck. Buck was following her. She gets to 30 yards, and that's when I was like, I need to check and see what this is. So I just slowly turned over and was like, holy shit, yep, there's the doe. Fuck, I let her sneak in on me, and I craned my neck a little bit further, and it was like, oh, there's that 9-pointer, the big monster, and he's right there, but this doe was looking right at me. She somehow, the wind wasn't going that way. I don't know if it was the thermals bringing it down, so it was one of those days in the morning that it was still getting colder. My thermals might have been going at her. I don't know if you saw my bow kind of swinging a little bit on the bow arm up there or something, but she was kind of onto me. And not kind of on me, she was on me. So I couldn't do anything. I was staring at her, craning my neck, and looking at that big buck behind her, and he was letting her come in, and She was nervous, and she didn't like blow or get super spooked, but she turned around and got behind some trees. They got behind trees. I stood up, turned around, grabbed my bow, and they were there behind some trees for a little while. And they just slowly made their way back to the swamp. And then all of a sudden I see tail go up. They didn't blow or anything, just down the hill into the swamp. Yep. And then a coyote came running through. So the last second, a coyote pushed them out. Yep. I don't think I was going to get them to come back in. I was grunting, and he was going wherever that doe was going.
He was following that doe.
Yeah, those does, man.
Yeah, they'll catch you. The Secret Service during the rut.
And and the other thing is, like, if you're in a situation like that where you are hunting in a place where cell cameras are completely legal and all that stuff, and you can hunt the same day, and you get a picture, you know where that camera is, just keep your focus in that area.
Oh,
you know,
for sure.
Like, no matter what, you got hunting, you got to suffer a little bit, even if it's freezing cold. Like, just stick it out for another hour.
That's I try to, on those tough days, I'll like tell myself a time before I go in. During the rut, on the days I take for vacation, I'll try to do all day sits, and I will for the most part. Yeah. But on other days, it's just, like with that, with the 11-pointer I told myself that I was staying till 1 o'clock. Yeah. And he came out at 12:30.
There you go.
And I don't know what it was. I just couldn't leave that sign that one day. But
I'm a big proponent of and a believer in suffering a little bit, and you get rewarded for it.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
I mean, I was up so many times at 4 a.m. this year, and I was tired because I'm also waking up middle of the night and feeding the baby when he wakes up, and I'm super tired. But I was determined to get out there and get deer. So many times I wanted to just go back to sleep. Especially when it's freezing cold. Those days when it was like 15 degrees and the wind is going to be blowing. But I know those are the days that the deer are going to be moving. And I want to get out there. And I love hunting in the rain. When it's pouring rain, I love it. My first buck I ever killed with a bow was in a pouring rain day. Nice. 40 degrees. It was really windy, rainy.
They're moving.
Yeah. It was that day. It was right when the rain stopped. The rain dumped on me from 5 a.m. to 10, like 5 straight hours of cold rain and wind.
That's a good time. I like.
And then it stopped for a second. Yep. Like there was like an hour window, and it was like I think 10:15. The buck came in like right after it stopped raining, and that's why I like because you don't know when there's going to be a break and the deer are going to go. I'm going to get up and feed.
That's true.
That's
a good time. Yeah,
I've
seen
early
a lot of
October.
deer like that.
But in the rut, dude, like if it's raining in the rut, it doesn't matter if it's raining or not. They're following a doe, whatever the doe's doing. If they're not bedding. Right.
So this year I take like a week off to go to Pennsylvania early season. Then I take a week and a half to hunt the rut. Yep. This year I think I had the second week of November off. But I was looking at the weather forecast and it was so warm that week. I think almost every day it was like in the 60s. Yeah. So I changed it from that week to the week after. Mm-hmm. And that week after, I was not seeing much rut activity. Yeah. And so I questioned myself, during the rut, maybe temperature doesn't.
Just a little bit it does. If you think about
it, though,
yeah, you're a football player, how much more tired you get on a super hot, humid day going through 2-a-days or practicing,
for sure.
Right? And you're so much more thirsty and all that, so you got to rest and you get more tired. So you think about it that way. It's definitely they can't do as much work. Yeah. They can't chase as much if it's going to be super hot.
No,
but
that's true.
Also in the heat, just hunt. You got to be near a water source. I would say. I wish there was a big drought this year, and if you could find some water during that heat, I bet it was.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah,
and like I said, I don't think I would moving forward. I think, the rut's the rut, and I probably shouldn't have switched my week. Yeah. I still saw rut in activity. Yep. But I probably wouldn't have done that.
I didn't see many deer that week either. Yeah, no. It was really hot. I didn't see much.
Yeah, I almost feel like, I don't know if the rut got strung out a little bit because of the warmer temperature, because I feel like we had that cold front that came in end of October. Yeah. We got snow. It was cold. Yeah. That definitely kicked things in. Sure. But then I don't, I've been talking to guys and, I hear different things, but I almost feel like after that, it warmed up for weeks to where it may have strung it out a little bit
Yeah, if I'm thinking back to all my cameras, I was running a lot of cameras. Yeah, it slowed down a little bit, but I did see chasing. I mean, I started seeing chasing and pre-rut activity on my cameras October 24th, and
nice.
it went all the way, to November 10th. The big chasing days.
Yep, for sure.
Then I think like that week, November 10th to like 17th. This is the first time I saw some big mature bucks chasing activity. I saw a big 8 that I would have killed, but he was 60 yards out and just on a full sprint terrorizing these 3 does. And then I saw spike horns. I just saw lots of deer chasing that week. But yeah, I didn't see too much of a slowdown. But less deer.
Yeah.
I saw less deer. I saw 108 deer this year so far.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's
great, man.
But it was a lot of sits.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Doesn't get much better than that.
No.
Especially with some nice bucks on the other end of it.
Man, it's fun. Yeah. I hope that 9-pointer survives and I can see what he looks like next year.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I still got the fire under me to get out there and chase these animals because that's what I love to do.
You got another tag, you might as well.
Of course. And then
do you gun hunt at all, or you stay with your crossbow?
No, I just stay with the crossbow. Yeah, cool. I have, I'll take out a muzzleloader or a shotgun, but...
I thought I was done bow hunting, man. I brought my muzzleloader out to try to get this 9-pointer. I'd hunted so many hours with my bow this year. I was like, all right, I'm going to take the muzzle. I like the muzzleloader.
Yeah, me too.
And I brought it out for a couple of days, and I thought for sure I was going to tag out with a muzzleloader buck, but... Hey, I grabbed the bow and did it with the bow.
That's what I was kind of hoping for, too. I kind of want to get one with my muzzleloader, but I don't know. I only take it, like I said, where I hunt, a lot of the properties I have bow-only permission. Right. So I only have maybe a couple spots where I would feel comfortable even using it out this way.
Yep.
So, but then I got that Rhode Island license. I think I'm going to dig in month of January out there and... Got a couple more Saturdays and day off. I think I'm gonna hunt. This one spot. There's a big buck that I'm after, and he's coming out on a northwest wind. Mm-hmm. And I think actually tomorrow and Tuesday, I think today and tomorrow is going to be a northwest wind.
I like the northwest wind. That's what I see most of the time around here. A west or a northwest wind.
Yep.
But I've had the most success on my swamp spot and southwest winds.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, I got my deer in the southwest wind, and I got another shot at one on the southwest there.
Oh, so sweet.
I've been seeing a lot of southwest lately.
Yeah, it's so that week I was off around the 17th of November.
Yeah.
It was mostly majority northwest wind, and then for the last few weeks it's been kind of all over the place with the wind. It's been varied quite a bit.
It has. It's been swirling.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's tough too. It's so tough out here, man, because the wind does swirl so much. You go into a spot and it says it's this wind.
It happens a lot.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. And that's where the ozonics maybe comes into play a little bit.
Exactly. And
if it's working for you, keep it working.
I try to just, like I said, stack all the chips in my favor, and hopefully it works out,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just want to remind everybody real quick, we're doing a New Year's raffle. A bunch of our sponsors pitching in stuff. Big New Year's raffle. We're going to do 3 Onyx subscriptions, 3 elite memberships. Wow. We're going to do a Trophy Ridge site, the same site that I use on my bow. It's a 5-pin site. We're going to do a case of Heron Hill wine.
I'm interested in that.
And so what you got to do to enter is you got to go to heronhill.com, the official winery of Hunt Suburbia podcast, and hunters everywhere. Owned by a hunter, managed by one of my good friends, so family of the program, friends and family of the program. Go there, buy some wine, and use code HS5 at checkout, and then just take a screenshot of whatever you bought and DM it to me or send me an email. That'll get you into the raffle. If you buy 12 bottles, you'll be entered 12 times. You buy 1 bottle, you're entered 1 time. And we're going to draw 5 winners on the first podcast of the new year, so January 3rd. So everybody make sure you do that and participate there. And dude, Taylor, thanks for coming, man.
Nice, man. That's a good deal. I'll be getting some raffle tickets for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and so there's just a few states where they don't deliver wine. They can't because of government crap. So if you're in one of those states and you're listening, go to Trophy Ridge and buy any accessory, whatever you want from Trophy Ridge. Send me a screenshot there, and for every $15 you spend there, we'll enter you into the raffle as well. But
that's awesome.
Good deal. Taylor, thanks for
Thanks
coming.
so much.
It's been a blast.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Anytime, man. This is awesome.
Keep up to date. Let me know how the season goes, and good luck on getting another buck, man.
Thanks, man. You too. This is great.
Take care, buddy.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Hunt Suburbia podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. We're going to release an episode every single Sunday throughout the season, throughout the entire year, and we will possibly be releasing some bonus episodes here and there throughout the week as people, come in freshly off a bow kill and tell their stories. We hope that happens throughout the season. There might be weeks where you get 2 or 3 bonus episodes. You might not get one for a couple of weeks, but there will be some bonus episodes. But you can count on us every single Sunday to have a new interview on throughout the season. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Big bucks I've been dreaming often, every night till I'm in a coffin. Vermont woods to the burbs of Boston, I'm looking for a tree to get lost in. Crisp mornings, little dust in the snow. Quality time, just me and my bow. Fall evenings, I know just where to go for some quality times for me and my bow. It's just me and my